In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. I'm hoping that my sound can be heard because last week when I tried to speak, you can hear me. And I ended up speaking for around 20 minutes when one of the people in the audiences responded with, "We can't hear you." And I said, "Really? Whoa, what happened?" So now I'm monitoring my sound closely, and I'm just going to be covering the same chapter again, unfortunately, because it wasn't it couldn't be done last week because of the sound, and right after this session I had other sessions, other things to run to, so I couldn't record it last week. So I'm going to do it again this week, and I'll try to remember all the things I talked about, because one of the most important things that I discussed last week was this holy month of Ramadan that is going on right now. So Ramadan started, I think, around almost 2 weeks ago. Almost 2 weeks ago, Ramadan started. In fact, exactly 2 weeks ago, it started, or in most parts of the world, let's say 13 to 14 days ago, and it's an incredibly important month for Muslims. Um, and I did a poll on LinkedIn. Now it's more than 10 days ago, but last time I did the video, it was last week. And I asked people, "Do you know what Ramadan is?" And I was happy to see that, at least on LinkedIn, most of the crowd who I'm connected with knew what it was. Some of them didn't, so they asked questions, and that was nice of them. And we discussed some of it in person. Though I've met people in England, in Canada, in America who still don't know what it is, and I would understand people, non-Muslims, not knowing it 20 years ago, before September 11th and before all those things happened. I can understand that. But we moved to England before September 11th. And then we saw how the world changed and they became well aware of Muslims and Islam and the practices. So now, when I'm confronted with the question, "Oh, what is Ramadan?" I'm a little perplexed. And also, I'm also perplexed by people. Well, I should write this. I'm also perplexed by people who know about it but don't know a lot about it. So this happens all the time when I tell someone, "Oh, I'm fasting," and they say, "Okay, you can still have juice, right?" No, no. Water? No. Anything? No. Not until the sun is out. As soon as the sun sets, I can eat and drink. Oh, so that happens. Then one of my one of my colleagues said to me last week, "Ali, you're fasting, right? You can still smoke." I was like, "No, but it's not going in your stomach." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. There's a huge, long explanation of why you can't, and let's discuss it later." But the lack of awareness still puzzles me. But I was happy to see that that on LinkedIn the crowd knew what it was. And what I did appreciate, though, is that there was no wall. There was no, like, "Oh, I don't know what Islam is, I don't know what Ramadan is, and I'm not going to talk about it to this person because I don't want to A, either offend him, or B, just ask some question or add to my knowledge which I may not use." Everyone, when confronted or when exposed to the knowledge of Ramadan or to the term of Ramadan, if they didn't know, they asked. And it's either because we're colleagues in the same workplace, or because they're friendly, or because I'm happy to see, at least in the academic circles, people still have a curiosity to know something that they're not aware of. So I was happy to see that, because everyone said, "Oh, so what is it?" And I would tell them, from sunrise to sunset, we don't eat, we don't drink, we don't smoke. For those who smoke, they don't smoke. That's the basic start. And they said, "Okay, all right." And I said, "It's like those juice fasts, or an OMAD, 1 meal a day fasts. People do them for health and fitness and nutrition. It's like that. But there's a lot more to it." One aspect that a lot of Muslims take, which is not entirely correct, is that they say, "We fast so we know how the less fortunate experience life." Now, that is one aspect of it. That is not the central tenet. That's one aspect, because There are people around the world who are suffering from malnutrition, who are suffering from inadequate food supplies. I was watching a video about Shanghai in the last couple of days based on new lockdown regulations. Shanghai is suffering from a lack of food shortages. So there are people around the world who still suffer, and fasting is one aspect of that, where you are able to, like, I'm fasting right now, and I can tell you I'm hungry. I would love some food that I really enjoy, but this is the discipline. You have to discipline this part of your body. Um, but that's one aspect of it. The central aspect of fasting is almost synonymous with the central aspect of Islam and the central aspect of almost all religions. But because we're discussing Islam, I will talk only about Islam. And the central aspect of all religions, in my opinion, and I'm happy to debate this publicly and privately, is self control. Self control and self mastery are the central tenets of all religions, in my opinion. It's not extremism, it is not proselytization, it is not spreading the word, it is not bringing people close to God and light and love and music. No, it's none of that. All those things are activities that are external. The central tenet of Islam, of Ramadan, and in my opinion, of all religious practices is mastery of the self, control of the self. So, religion is all about sin, what is sinful and what is not sinful, the good and the bad. That is a central argument in religion. I'm sure most, if not everyone, would agree. So, what not to do and what to do, this is about discipline and control. Your behavior is being regulated. Can't say this, can't do this, can't do this to this person, can't say this to X person. Happens all the time, right? So that is religion. And if you follow it, you be involved in practice, get involved in some practices which allow you to regulate yourself. I'm being extremely honest. I would love to have some wonderful Chinese food right now because Chinese is one of my favorite, or some wonderful South Asian food because I love the cuisines. I can't. I'm not going to. I don't care if my stomach crawls out of my body and says, "Feed me, human," and I'd say no, 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 not until the sun sets. It's not going to happen. That is discipline. So that is at the central of it. And the first thing Ramadan expects you to control is your hunger, because that is one of the most primal forces. And I know today people, especially in the developed world, don't pay much attention to food. And I snigger and I shudder and I'm disappointed to see this because I go to a restaurant and I see people eating, but they're not even looking at their food. They're looking at their phone, and they're like, ha ha ha, on their phone. And food is just a byproduct of this activity. This is just keeping them alive, and yeah, that's what's keeping them interested. But try living without food for a week, like no food. Like I can eat when the sun is down. Try living without food for a week. Try living. If I tell you that you can't use the restroom, like you can't, all the restrooms are closed and you can't excrete your waste anywhere, what would you do? What would you do if I told you that these bodily functions are not allowed anymore? No, you're not allowed to do them. I'm pretty sure within the first day, the phone will be gone, the TV will be gone, the cars and everything, all these wonderful things that we collect, they'll all be gone. And the only focus would be, oh my God, please let me do my daily biological functions, which allow me to function not as a human being, as a living thing. A living thing needs to breathe, a living thing needs to consume, and a living thing needs to excrete, and some other processes. They need to do that. Please let me do those things. I don't care if my smartphone doesn't work, or my tablet doesn't work, or I miss my favorite TV show, or don't watch my favorite singer in concert. I need to do this. That is how important they are. But because now we have developed our society into a place where where we don't pay enough attention to these central factors. And I'm glad to see that climate change activists or recycling activists or people who encourage less technology and more focus on self are bringing these principles into the 21st century and applying them. Like, look, the machines are great, they're wonderful, but the human is also important. um, and that is one of the starting factors of Ramadan. You start controlling your hunger and you start realizing, oh my God, how much do I eat every single day without thinking? I get up, go to the fridge, right in the back, fetch an orange, peel it, eat it. 15 minutes later, I get up, fetch a banana, come and eat it. And I'm just doing this all day without realizing, because I save money. I earn money, save money, and spend money to have the food I need whenever I need it. And I realize that. But when I'm fasting, I get up, I go to the fridge, and I realize, oh, I'm fasting. I can't be eating. And then I come back and then do it again, and I realize, good Lord, how many times do I actually go to the fridge? A lot of times. So that's the first control. And once the stomach is controlled and the mouth, then you start controlling other aspects. You start controlling where you look, who you look at, how you look at them, what you listen to, what you smell, what you touch, and then what you speak, what you say. And then you realize, wow, I curse a lot when I speak, or I swear a lot, or I listen to music all the time. I don't have peace and quiet ever during my day. Oh my God, I smell X all the time, or I look at X, I look at porn, I look at films, I look at music, whatever. And then you realize, oh, I have to start controlling all of that. So you start controlling. You start with the stomach. You start controlling all the senses, all of them, and there are parts of Buddhist philosophy which I've read, which call this achieving a stillness of your mind. And you achieve that by controlling every natural inclination that your body would have as a living being and as a living human. You control that, and you start controlling, and you start achieving a stillness, and then you start controlling your mind. Because if any of you have ever meditated, you know this, or prayed for that matter, you know this, the hardest thing to control is the mind. Every other sense can be physically limited, like, okay, I'm not listening, I'm not smelling, I'm not doing it. But controlling the mind is a whole other thing. You start controlling the mind, and you start controlling the soul and the direction of life, and you start controlling everything. So self-mastery and self-control is not a one-dimensional construct, as they say in theory building. It's multi-dimensional, and it has multiple repercussions in different domains. That is the importance of Ramadan and fasting from a Muslim's point of view. But if you observe other religions, a lot of them have practices of fasting, of this, because the body is reminded every time you say, oh, I want a Coke. Oh, I can't drink Coke right now because I'm fasting. And then while your friends are eating and drinking, and you sit there, and maybe you're enjoying the conversation, but inside your body is saying, we're, we're holding on. We're holding off on accessing food supplies. Maybe we should hold on to other things too. Maybe we shouldn't be looking at these things, or maybe we shouldn't be listening to this, and maybe we shouldn't be saying this, and maybe we shouldn't be acting like this. And the center starts coming to the front, and you start achieving a stillness of the mind. That is an incredibly important factor of Ramadan. And another important factor of Ramadan, which is why I'm going to cover the chapter now, because I've been speaking for 14 minutes. See, I can talk about this topic for a long time. Another important factor of Ramadan is that the Quran, this little book right here, was revealed and completed in the month of Ramadan. That's when it happened. So the chapter today is called Surah Al-Qadr, the night of power, the night of decree, the night of fate, and so many other words. And according to Islam, the Quran was revealed in its completion on this night. Now there is a discussion amongst religious scholars. I'm not one of them. There's a discussion amongst religious scholars, some of whom say that the first revelation and the last revelation both happened in this month and it took 23 years. The other perspective says the whole Quran was revealed to Prophet Muhammad in his embrace with Gabriel. When that happened, the whole thing came into him, and then over time, it was manifested in word for the other people, for the Muslims, and for the whole region and the populace to hear and understand. Varying perspectives, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter. What matters is that the book is here. We have it today. Whether it came in an evening or over 23 years, what matters is there is a book here in our hands today. And it's been here for 1400 years almost. So we maybe a bit less, but 1400 years almost we've had this book. So this chapter is very short and talks about that night, and it reads as such: In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Verily, we have sent it, this Quran, down in the night of Al-Qadr, which is the night of decree, power, fate. And what will make you know what the night of Al-Qadr is? The night of Al-Qadr is better than 1,000 months, which is worshipping God in that night is better than worshipping Him for 1,000 months. 1,000 months is 83 years and 4 months. 83 years. That is more than the average lifespan. And this one night of worship equates to one lifetime or more than one average lifetime of worship. Isn't that insane? Therein descend the angels and the Ruh. Ruh means spirit, and in this case refers to Gabriel, Jibrail, by God's permission with all decrees. All then that night there is peace and goodness from God to his believing slaves until the appearance of dawn. And in the footnotes it says two things. In the footnote for the first verse, where it talks about the night of decree, it says, Therein, that night is decreed every matter of ordainment, which is from the Quran, which means the matters of death, birth, provision, calamities for the whole coming year as decreed by God. Oh, I hope you can still hear me. Network problem? Really? I really hope you can hear me because this doesn't make sense. Good Lord. Well, I'm still going to complete it. I'm still going to complete it, and then if it doesn't work, then I'll figure something else out. And then the other, see, every time this happens, it worries me. I hope people can hear it. I hope you can see me. Ushna B is having a network problem. I don't know why that is. So I hope that's resolved. The second verse is narrated by Aisha, who's the wife of Prophet Muhammad. Search for the night of Al-Qadr in the odd nights of the last 10 nights of Ramadan. This is from Sahih al-Bukhari 32017. And this is true. This is true. So Muslims, in the odd nights, last 10 nights, in the odd ones, 21, 23, 25, 27, 29, Muslims are looking for the night of Al-Qadr. And there's some consensus that it's the 23rd, there's the 27th, but they stay up and they pray. They stay up and they pray. And they stay up all night sometimes and they pray, and then they sleep in the morning because it's Ramadan. So this night is incredibly important for Muslims, and it's coming in the next 2 weeks. So you can imagine that a lot of Muslims around the world will be awake and praying during it. But yeah, basically this is the chapter. It's a very short chapter, but short doesn't mean weak. Short can sometimes mean very, very powerful, and it's God just telling us. But what's interesting here is the first footnote. The matters of death, birth, provision, and calamities for the whole coming year are ordained, are decided on this night. So we have some inclination of what God's system is. And I'm sure there's a system, because in Urdu we have this song which says, कोई तो है जो निज़ाम हस्ती चला रहा है वही खुदा है, which means there is someone who is running the cosmic churning of the ocean, the governing dynamics of the universe, and that is God. So as Muslims we believe that, and most other religions believe that too. So there is a system, and in that system, this night of Al-Qadr is the night when certain things are decided. So death, birth, provisions, and calamities. So it's almost like uh, advantages, disadvantages, threats, opportunities, SWOT. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. You plan that. Similarly, calamities are threats, provisions would be opportunities, strength would be birth, and weakness would be death. Or depends how you look at it, but it's planned. It's decided on this night, and it says, here's the decree, this is what's going to happen in the coming year. And the angels say, yes, sir, and then they go and enact it. But that's important about this night. So I'm going to stop this here because I covered a lot of it last week as well, and I hope I covered some of it. But the importance of Ramadan, I'm glad I was able to touch upon it, because last week I talked about it, and today I wanted to discuss it again. And I'm glad that my colleagues and friends still come up to me and ask. And I'm glad to see that on LinkedIn, most of the people knew what it was, but I'm still perplexed that it's not common knowledge now, because with the internet and with the advent of globalization, cross-pollination, I see a lot of people are knowledgeable about Islam, but they're knowledgeable about political Islam or the politics of Islam. They're not knowledgeable about the religion in and of itself. And for that matter, it is incumbent upon Muslims to engage non-Muslims in conversation, not discussion, not debate, conversation. And you find out if the other person believes in a religion or a faith. Fair enough. You share yours with them, they share yours. If they don't, then you can discuss other topics. And if the opportunity comes to share, you share rather than say, oh, what is this knowledge going to help this other person? Or I should tell him and convince him to be a Muslim. No, neither. Information, knowledge can just be shared, and the other person can make their own decision on whether they want, or on whatever they want to do with that information. Your task is to share the truth that you know or you believe in, and then leave it at that. And the same goes to non-Muslims, because one of the people on my LinkedIn wrote, I thought Ramadan was this, and he wrote something, and I said, yes, it's that, but it's also this. But if he hadn't written it, maybe he would still be believing that. So that is incredibly important. Do not be afraid, because Muslims won't be offended. Like I wasn't offended. I was perplexed. I was like, wow, I'm still surprised people don't know. I wasn't offended in the slightest. So please come forward and ask us, what is Ramadan? What do you do? So can you eat this? Can you drink that? And we would encourage you. And Muslims, if someone comes to you, be welcoming, be loving, share, and also find opportunities to find out about them and tell them what you believe, and find common ground and find differences and see how those differences can be mitigated and keep it cordial and balanced. So that's how I have always approached Islam, or shall I say, since I grew up, that's how I've approached Islam. And I hope the nearly 2 billion Muslims and the other population of the world, the non-Muslim population, I don't know the exact number, also follow this practice of conversation and engaging in dialogue and learning, not to criticize or break down. Why is that even necessary? But just for knowledge and information to be there. And an atheist might look at Ramadan and say, you know what? Apart from the whole spiritual and divinity aspect of it, I quite like it. I believe in self-control. An atheist, I'm not saying all the atheists, but an atheist might say, I believe in self-control, I believe in discipline, I believe in almost all those things. The thing that does not work for me is the divinity and the miracles and the God. And the Muslim should respond with, okay, if you want to fast, Fast with that mindset. The Muslim shouldn't say, no, but you must believe in God in order to. No, no. Let's not take that route. Whatever works. If they're willing to do something, let them do something. But they won't be able to do anything. And neither would Muslims be able to do anything unless the knowledge or information is shared. So, my encouragement, which is one of the reasons why I do this weekly, shall I say, vodcast, live stream, is so the information is there. I don't even promote this for the likes or for the hearts or for the celebrations. I couldn't care less. All I want to do is to complete this book online and then cover the Bible, then the Vedas, then the Old Testament, and I want to cover them. And it would take me five years or so, but I'm committed. So thank you so much for joining me this Friday. As far as I know, it's Easter. If I'm mistaken, do message me. But for those who celebrate Easter, happy Easter and Good Friday. And I hope you have a pleasant time and you rest, because all of us are just coming out of the pandemic and we're back to work and we're just getting used to being back to work. So have a great Easter, and I'll see you all